Welcome to the WICR Morning Show. You're here listening to me, P. Considori, Ken Reichman, and today our producer, Jersey Joe Archino. How you doing, Joe?
I'm pretty good. Glad to be here.
Jersey Joe sporting the Miami Heat today.
Yes.
Big win last night. Big win.
Yes, most certainly was.
Yes. You can catch Jersey Joe and Big Shot Rob today at 2 p.m. on the Sports Vault.
Now, Jersey Joe, I'm ready for my nickname whenever you are.
You know, I got to come up with one. For you. I mean, Big Shot Rob, it was tough to come up with, but
yeah?
I'm working on yours. So
okay.
I think
right.
by next show,
in 7 days, we'll have a nickname.
I think everyone should get a nickname by the end of this.
Okay.
All right, I
won't forget about you,
I think
Pete.
Pete's fishing for a nickname here.
I mean, I've had so many nicknames in the past.
Oh, yeah? Give me a few. Come on.
Pete.
Nice.
Peter, John, because that's my middle name.
PJ.
My mother and father call me PJ, yes.
Wow.
I like it.
I am a PJ.
We're getting personal on the morning show.
We're getting a little personal on the morning show.
What do your
Shout
parents
out to
call
Mom
you,
and Pops.
Jersey Joe?
Well, when I'm out and about, you know, they got to stick with Jersey Joe.
Yes, of course.
Oh, of course. I mean, how can you not?
When we're in the confines of the home, it's Joe.
It's just Joe.
And
when you have to clean your room, is it Joe or is it Joseph?
Well,
it's Joseph.
I clean my own room, so you
okay.
know, I'm
Jersey Joe.
I'm a pretty clean guy.
Gosh, I'm not going to show my parents this one.
I like to keep it neat and organized.
Getting upstaged by Jersey Joe here. Jeez.
I'm just going to call him Joe from now on.
This is getting a little ridiculous.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Jeez.
Oh, man. Kind of warm outside.
It is, again.
It's not the greatest day, but it's pretty warm.
But yeah, see, this is the kind of weather I like. I like a little warm with a little cloud and a little rain.
I just keep on looking outside. I'm like,
wind.
can the sun just come out? I just want it to be warm again.
Dude, come on. You don't need the sun.
I just want it to be warm.
You'll be fine.
Oh, man. So let's go on to some news, Ken.
Let's go on to some news. Let's talk a little bit about what's going on in the Ukraine. Recent clashes with riot police have resulted in 70 dead and hundreds wounded. There are calls for the international community to step in and help put an end to the violence. Things are getting a little crazy out there, huh?
It's bad.
There was a cease or a truce for about 45 seconds, and then they went right back to, battling each other, and a lot of people have been hurt, a lot of people have been killed, and I was talking to Jersey Joe outside before just a little bit ago.
You almost slipped there, Ken.
I know. I got to watch myself. I was talking to Jersey Joe outside a little bit ago, and we were talking about how the world is just unfolding in front of our eyes. You've got the situation in the Ukraine, and then you've got the situation in Venezuela as well, and protesters, mostly students, want President Maduro to resign and blame his government for violent crimes, high inflation, product shortages, alleged repression of opponents, and the world is just unfolding. You know, it's just coming apart at the seams right in front of our eyes. Me and Joe can walk to class and not have to worry about it.
I mean, yeah, we were talking about it. I'm very lucky. I think we should all consider ourselves very lucky. I mean, we don't have to deal with these problems. I mean, it's going back to the Venezuela thing, I think a lot of people are probably more concerned now because as you've seen the escalation in the Ukraine, that started off where, I mean, it was still bad, but it was manageable.
Right.
And now it's turned into, it's a war zone.
Yeah.
So Venezuela, I think, when you look at the Ukraine, which is, it's happening at the same time. I mean,
do you think the Ukraine is a kind of a foreshadowing of Venezuela?
That's what I was thinking when I read the other story. I was like, man,
setting an example for everyone, I guess, that wants to do this. Are we going to
see like a domino effect here of things like that happening? I mean, I'm all for if people feel they're oppressed.
Oh yeah,
you got to do what you gotta do.
I'm a big fan of revolution because sometimes you just need to. You need to do it, but there's something to be said for violent revolution and nonviolent revolution.
Exactly.
And I'm not a big proponent for the former.
So what's happening in Nigeria, Ken?
Nigeria, it seems another suspected attack by an Islamic extremist in Nigeria has left 115 people dead, more than 1,500 buildings razed, and 400 vehicles destroyed, and a pattern of attacks on the nation by extremists, and some have criticized the military's willingness to deal with the situation. Again, it just is another situation where you've got to consider yourself a lucky person to be living in a country where there are protests, but they don't escalate into a war zone.
They're
where there are,
for the most part, they're peaceful.
Right.
Yeah.
in this
Right.
country, only because of our constitutional rights.
Right.
In these countries, they don't have that, so they just need to. I feel like after a while, like, you back a dog into a corner,
Yeah.
and then it finally just leashes out at you. I feel like that's what's happening here.
Absolutely.
And I feel like after the Ukraine, Venezuela said, well, if they could do it, we could do it. And now after that, and now with Nigeria, all these terrorist attacks, it's like, there's just no.
It's very interesting.
I feel
Here's the thing that has me especially worried about things like in Nigeria. I mean, when we have terrorist attacks here, I mean, we have capable law enforcement, capable military, so we can deal with this problem. But there's so many nations in Africa where they have such an unorganized government,
they can't.
not a stable military, and it's a breeding ground for terrorists. I mean, we see places like Somalia. This is becoming a real big problem. I mean, I think these
a lot of piracy.
I think these terrorist groups are finding asylum in these places because they're able to get away with it.
Well, yeah,
more easily.
it's corrupt and it's easy to
It's bad.
not have to worry about it there. You know what I mean? It's not like here.
No.
It's not. And we got to consider ourselves lucky.
And I think that this is going to be a serious problem. I mean, going forward, though. I mean,
it most certainly has been a serious problem in the past, but I think more recently it's come to light.
It is. Because you see, like, places like the Middle East, I mean, some of these countries are getting more momentum politically, and the groups know they can't operate the same way they did, so they're going to places like Africa now where they can operate more. And I think that, unfortunately, we're going to have a lot more conflicts on the horizon regarding these things.
It all comes down to the de facto quote-unquote war on terror.
Right.
And how there is no end to the war on terror. I mean, terror will always find its way. The war
even if nothing's done, people are going to be afraid of certain groups.
And that's still an act of terrorism.
Right.
So there is no end to the war on terror. There is no end to the war on drugs. People will always find a way to get illegal drugs. There's no way to end those wars. And when you declare a war on terror, or when you declare a war on drugs, you set yourself up not only for failure, but for years and years and years of financial spending, of hardship, of just a lot of things that can be avoided.
I wouldn't necessarily say failure. I feel like maybe a waste of time.
Well, you know what happens?
You can stop one organization, and then another organization comes of it.
Any terrorist attack that's thwarted by the quote-unquote war on terror is a win. So maybe failure was the wrong word.
Right.
But
we have done things to stop certain acts and certain people.
And of course, and
other countries have as well.
Yes. No, we definitely have, and that's good news. But what's not good news is the continued waste of time, like you said, on these issues.
I mean, yes, protect. The way I see it, protect ourselves if needed. Go invade a country and say, listen, we're not, build some confidence in ourselves. Like, listen, we're not taking any of this anymore. We're done. We're coming to your country. We're going to do what we got to do, and that's it. Without killing civilians. Yeah. But I feel like you spend so much money on something that's just going to come back in a year or two. It's protecting our country, but maybe we should start looking at our homeland security stuff, because some of this stuff would have never happened if security was up in airports. If they had these things after 9/11, before 9/11. And unfortunately, I feel like with many countries, nothing is done until something is done to us or to them.
Yeah.
And no precautions are taken. I feel like if you do the right thing from the beginning, we wouldn't have to worry about invading countries. We wouldn't have to worry about things like 9/11.
Well, I guess you never know what the right thing is until...
True.
And that's the hard part, right?
And and the thing is, you never, how many flights
right.
before 9/11 were successful?
Yes.
How many? Oh, it's got to be over a million. It's got to be over 2 million.
Yeah.
It's got to be over 5 million.
And
you know what? Until that one flight, until that one thing. So to me, it's not that we were doing the wrong thing. It's not that we weren't being careful, because there was still security on the airlines.
Yeah.
It's just that now we live in fear. We live in a fear, and that's what a terrorist does. It instills fear. It doesn't blow things up. It doesn't kill people. It instills fear, and once they instill fear, they have won, and that's why the war on terror is impossible to end, because now
there's always going to be some sort of fear.
There's always fear, and now we live in a place where we need to check shoes 14 times before you let somebody on the plane. I'm not allowed to take my orange juice on the plane.
Speaking of checking shoes, they just implemented that. We spoke about that, what was it, yesterday morning?
Yeah, we talked about it yesterday. They re-upped the shoe ante. So, to me, there's fear. Once there's fear, terrorists win. We still live in fear. They're winning. That's how it goes to me. I don't care how long we spend in a country invading them or how long we spend doing whatever military-wise. We have wasted our time because we don't feel safe at home. And if we did feel safe at home, we wouldn't need to do these things.
That's true.
Let's play hypothetical, though. Let's say somebody uses an argument, because a lot of people have related back when we had a problem with the mafia for a long time. And we saw, we had to just keep putting pressure, and eventually they're still out there, but their presence is very small. So what if somebody would make the argument that we need to follow the same course of action? You've got to keep pressure, and eventually you leave them no room to breathe. And
I agree with that, but you have to understand that the people we're dealing with in the extreme cases that we've had are not in our country.
Yeah,
agreed.
If the people in their country would give them pressure like we did with the mafia, I'm sure they wouldn't be as strong as they were now.
That's a very good point.
Yeah, I'd agree. It's not fully domestic here. Very obviously, it's not very domestic at all. This is a worldwide phenomena, which it's impossible to continue to put pressure on all these people unless you want to put military in all these countries.
Right.
Which, I don't know about me or you, but Jersey Joe, if you gave that answer in a presidential debate, they would not be very happy.
No, but I think that's a good point too. The mafia. We were able to attack it heads on because it was in
here.
If you're living in the attacking, I don't want to say attacking, but if you're living in the place that are people trying to suppress that kind of bad action, they're not going to want to do it as publicly. They're going to confine and they're going to get smaller and smaller. With things like, let's say, the Taliban. They had their whole country scared. No one was going back.
Right.
At some points the leaders were involved, and the reason why I guess we invaded is like, okay, we'll get in their country, subside, but once we leave, it's going to come back. So I feel like it really doesn't work unless it's a domestic thing, like the mafia in the U.S.
Now, I would argue that we are doing that. Yeah. I would argue that we are putting pressure because we thought these were limited cells in limited places, and we have spread ourselves very thin over the Middle East, and we've wasted a lot of money, and to me and to a lot of Americans, it's time to call it a day.
See, me too. I think the U.S. has done everything they can do, and I think that's what makes it hard is they operate in so many places where there's just not stable governments who are doing enough to get rid of them, and we have to do all the work.
Yeah, I think at some point you need to cut your losses, which there have been. Yes. There have been way too many losses. We've lost too many lives in something like this, and what we can do, though, is protect ourselves. We can come home and protect ourselves at home.
Right.
And not wait until something happens, but get out of this state of fear that if we aren't always on the offensive, that we don't have to be on the defensive. We can be in the neutral.
This is true. It's very true. Great stuff here on the morning show talking about politics. You're listening to us on live365.com or Ustream.com by searching WICR, the keyword. Very easy to go to. Just type it into the URL.
All you can
also like us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/WICR Iona College Radio. Follow us on Twitter at Iona WICR and watch previously recorded shows. Yes, just like Sports Vault. Just like Sports Central, just like Full Metal Attack, and just like Yappy Hour.
That is a beautiful plug right there.
I know.
I loved it all.
You can go to YouTube, and you can go to youtube.com/WICR Gales Radio. We'll be right back with some sports and entertainment.
Hey everyone, I'm Pete Considori, WICR President and MassCom Senior. There's great things happening in